Today, Rinpoche showed us how patience is one of the main things that connects us to liberation. It's one of the benefits. If we're able to be patient with our suffering, then we will be able to endure the hardships necessary to become a Buddha. Got it?
Shouldn't remember.
That's good. Where we leave off? 47. That's good.
172. We're going to start with developing.
Yeah, we're going to do 2, right? Number 2 we're going to start? Okay. 415. The Jipja. That's good. Yeah, the Jipja. Drew Junga. 415, 416. Nedagi. Jipja. Judru.
Is that Judru?
Jipja Judru Nipa Dunyel Dang Du Lembi Zupa Jepa Lasum.
Yeah.
We need some like
What is that Judru?
Okay, so everybody who's following along, in the English, we're on page 172, and we're going to begin with number 2, developing the patience of accepting suffering. So that's where we're going to begin today with those 3 categories. And in Tibetan, page 416. Jipja Judru.
What Tangato Lamrim was Lamrim Marve.
Lesso.
Land what the Dendry Land and Andrew Lani was. That Andrew Landala Kasukure.
Lesso.
Mago Chimbo de New Lang.
Lesso.
Ding Dag Lang, Chumut Lang.
Lesso.
Go out and Chum and Chimbo the Lai Lang.
Lesso.
Ding Lamai.
Lesso.
May Lang is a Marve.
Lesso. So we begin with number 2. It says, developing the patience of accepting suffering. So when we look at pathways or we look at practice, there really are 2 distinct pathways if we really want to break it down. Those pathways which lead to the higher realms and happiness, and those pathways which lead to the lower realms and suffering. So when we look at how our behavior affects our experience, we can see that at a gross level, the way that the 6 realms of cyclic existence are produced are in dependence upon varying degrees of virtue and non-virtue. So when we look at the Buddhist system, we say that there are 6 realms of cyclic existence. There are 3 lower realms, 3 higher realms. Lower realms, hell, hungry, ghost, and animal. Higher realms, human, demigod, and God realms. So these realms are caused in dependence upon virtue or non-virtue. The higher realms being caused by virtue, the lower realms being caused by non-virtue. The virtue and non-virtue have degrees of execution. So it is said that the greatest degree of non-virtue gives rise to a hell realm rebirth. A medium degree of non-virtue gives rise to a hungry ghost realm. And a small degree of non-virtue gives rise to an animal realm. Then when we look at the opposite of non-virtue, virtue, we see that those experiences are created in the same way. So the greatest degree of virtue giving rise to a God's realm experience, a medium degree of virtue giving rise to demigod, and a small degree of virtue giving rise to a human realm. So this is how, when we say pathways to higher realms, pathways to lower realms, we're really speaking of those virtuous actions and those non-virtuous actions and their degrees and how they relate to those experiences or those results, if you will. Dixon.
That Dendo Tangata Samalo Sanjia Yores, Jusen Karesana, and Sanjia Rio Samal.
Less so. So, but we say that whether a being is in the higher realm or the lower realm, we say that that being has Buddha. So that's the literal way to say it. So why do we say this being has Buddha? We say because all these beings have Buddha potential. So just as a translator's note, when we say has Buddha, I'm not inferring, I'm not saying, in the English it can be confusing. We're not saying that everyone has a Buddha in them that just has to come out. We're saying that that potential abides in every being, whether the higher realm or the lower realm. This Buddha nature, this Buddha potential.
다 상지가 리드 쇼스나 안가 주 이지 쉐바나 이지 쉐바 네마마 루바니들레스
So,
이지 쉐바 진주지리 이지 쉐바 네마마 루바도 라지네리 라그레스
why do we say that this Buddha potential exists? If we were to say, posit that Buddha potential, or show me this Buddha potential, we would say the mental consciousness, A, and B, the mental consciousness's lack of true establishment. So the lack of true establishment of the mental consciousness and the mental consciousness itself are the Buddha potential. So that's what we're referring to. So there's two kinds of Buddha potential. There's the I forget how the exact name for it, but one is one of the Buddha potential is the mental consciousness itself. The rik ni yanju surang ge jason.
진주 지리스나 이지 쉐바들레
Jinju.
라지네리스나 이지 쉐바데 돈이데
So one is the natural lineage, and that's the lack of true establishment of the mental consciousness. Ginger, I just can't remember what the other one, can remember in a minute, but the other one is the actual mental consciousness itself, that is the Buddha potential. So one Buddha potential is the mental consciousness itself, and the other is the natural Buddha potential, which is the emptiness of, or the lack of true establishment of, that mental consciousness.
진주 릴라 때는 롱고도 조금 좋은 거라서
So in dependence upon the potential that is the mental consciousness, the enjoyment body and the emanation body are produced. Dene?
어제
Jinjuri
샤자문보다 진주지리 나라지나리 유여장 안고 라고는 사제송레스
Then Ranjing, the Chuku.
라지네리 다가데 예지셔가 내바마루어들에 돈이들에 돈
Then the Chuku Ju.
어디 최고로는
Okay. And then we say that the natural Buddha potential is what gives rise to the Dharmakaya, the truth body. So it is the Buddha potential that is the mental consciousness that gives rise to the emanation body and the enjoyment body. And it is the natural Buddha potential, which is the lack of true establishment of the mental consciousness, that gives rise to the truth body.
What and then suji da nga zo de nieba donga dalang zo ba den de ma ba zo ba la e na donga dalang zo ba ane zo ba son yo ma ba so ba son donga dalang zo ba en chula nga se zo ba de ne ga re o de ji son yo
So, now you're right.
yeah.
So we have, now we'll move on to page 172, and 172, number 2. It says, developing the patience of accepting suffering. There are 3 categories here. 1, the reason you must definitely accept suffering. 2, the way to develop acceptance. And 3, a detailed explanation from the viewpoint of the basises. So these are the 3 categories.
어떤 데는 저발 해고 저발 편에 접으시라 그래서 저발 공기나 존재비 용거です저변 제신 조 담발라 펀단스 저거 담발스 가비 용거です저변 제신 조 담발라 펀단 로던 로미셰발라 개반 조신스 네 셰바다 나바다 어떤 게 조사도술 개발 용거です내가 줘봐도 마주봐도
Umajupa?
오만주바
Okay.
로던 로멘주 개반
That's
조신
so.
디 우드네 시 우드 라도 멀지 그래서 네 집에서 그래서 저번에 주 담발라 판단 로단 로메시발라 개발주시 되고도네 함이제다 디바세 번주로스 와도 오만주와 노트 송은 것스.
Okay, so let's go. Okay, so it's very important and very beneficial for us to practice patience. So we have led up to this section, which is the second kind of patience, developing the patience of accepting suffering. So here we find a quote from the Madhyamika Avatara that shows how important the development of patience is. So it says, "Patience makes you beautiful and dear to holy beings. Through patience you are skilled in knowing right from wrong. In the afterlives you will be born as human or divine, and negativity will have no hold on you." So patience is a cause for beauty. So it's said that patience is the cause of one. If someone is beautiful, it is said that the cause of that is patience. And it says, "and dear to holy ones." So the holy ones, the Buddhas and the like, enjoy or really like the fact that you are engaging in this important practice of patience. So it says, "and dear to the holy ones." So by you practicing this, it makes you dear to the holy ones. Through patience you are skilled in knowing right from wrong, what is virtuous and what is non-virtuous, being able to be mindful and patient. In afterlives you'll be born as human or divine, and negativity will have no hold on you. Okay. Geshe Rinpoche.
다시 동국이 전사때 아마 받던 개발단 해지고요 말이스.
Lesso.
너 어디 저비 전사때 내 계정 담아 술 저버여봐 있는 사막이 전사です. 저버 도내나라 전지 주스.
So we say that this patience is a real beautifier, is a real ornament. So if we look at worldly ornaments such as jewelry and so forth, we can see that not all normal ornaments beautify the person that it goes on. So if we look at a small child, a baby, and we were to cover it with jewelry, it wouldn't make it more beautiful, or a very old person would look silly if we were covered with all of this jewelry. But the natural ornament of patience makes everyone beautiful. If it is a small child, if one is a small child, or older, or even elderly, patience makes them more beautiful, whereas worldly ornaments do not. So we see in this case, yeah, that's it. Dixon.
Oh yeah. 다 저발라 동에 단단에 저발라 송 동에 단단에 그 주천당 네 대제비 타다 이건 제바셔 사실 송으로 다 동에 단단에 그 주천 가르스나 현줄래 대전에 가시 네 동에 준 신도 뭐 she송바 따라 란자라 동에 강로하시 준도 종유 들란도 치셔바시 매도로와인데스 안는 가서 주도 동에 차반도 동에 강로하지 주도 요바레스 동에도 요도 안 동에 단에 저바데 시라케 쳐버도 내바도 냐내지 고레스 매도로 모론데 동에 단에 저바도 매바이나 다다마이나 tel hatuzo sombatara yana ane sedanje ngores konrolang ngores chela yana langombala sushibi sombajene gwala ju bache du shoros donga dans la joba mena wote kasogore donga kan ronshi Judun Jong Yu Nazola. The land of Chishibashi Medu Moron in this, the Natalan Zuba Medu Moron is. Tada Mahina, the Natalan Zuba Yuba Mahina. They Ladu Sumbatara, Shantin the Ladu Sumbatara. Yana Shinaji Ures. Yana Langumba Tanga Tusa Marisan, Shumba Jene, Gawag Bachin Lugres, Gawala Ju, Bachin Ju Shoros, or but the Galej, you know?
That's so. Okay, so so now we've arrived at number 2. So there are 3 types of patience: developing the patience of disregarding harm done to you, developing the patience of accepting suffering, and developing the patience of certitude about the teachings. So now we're at number 2, which is developing the patience of accepting suffering. There are 3 parts. The reason you must definitely accept suffering, the way to develop acceptance, a detailed explanation from the viewpoint of the basises. The reason you must definitely accept suffering. So we find a quote again from Shantideva's Engaging in the Bodhisattva Deeds, or Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life. The causes of happiness sometimes occur, whereas the causes of suffering occur frequently. So we will definitely have to endure suffering because we have created very few causes for our happiness. We have created many, many causes for our future suffering. So because the causes of suffering are so immense, we will have to endure it. So this is the first category. The reason you must definitely accept suffering is because it will occur. There's no way out of it. So then we find points made in Shantideva's other text, the Compendium of Trainings. It says, as you continually experience whatever suffering is appropriate to you, you absolutely must know how to bring it into the path. Otherwise, as the Compendium of Trainings says, you either generate hostility or you become discouraged about cultivating the path. Either circumstance is interfering with applying yourself to virtue. So if we do not develop or cultivate patience, then this suffering will serve as a distraction and actually then create anger, which will then not allow you to cultivate the path and will make you, in turn, cultivate the path to suffering. Dene?
Oh, let's
go Gongel Mepachi. So when we look at what kinds of suffering we could endure, there is the suffering of change, and the pervasive compounded suffering. So these are just 3, Rinpoche listed 3 varieties of suffering we could endure and will have to endure. Digson Gongel Mepachi.
Teon Dungen Kaji ne Genji Shebang, Gen la Dene, Dungen Yunga Yores, Genji Shebang Yu. Kaji ne Lan La, Jamba She Maji, Gan Lang, Hunji, Leji Jebang Yus, Lan Le Dat, Jamba She Nanda, Maji Nanda, Hunji Leji Jebi Dungen Yores, Jebang Yu. Kaji ne Wunen Cheba Tar, Geshe Lharampa Jongla Majuna, the Geshe Lharampa Dunga Yunkan Watende Yuares. Geshe Lharampa Jongla Majuna Manjua Yutos, what the Dunga Rimara Watende Yuares. The Ether Munchi Letan, Treji Chenji, Wangi, Nebachela, Dunga to Sukangal Munchi Letan. Treji Chen la Tene, Juno Rebukangala, Jujen la Tene Chibashadaruta, Jujen la Manduba Yomarwa. What the Dunga to Sukangal Hoji Letan, Tregi Chen la Tene Shadares. Tag Hoji Letan Asul Dunga and Damanda Hoji Lela Tene Yomarwa. That Dunga Chen Damanda Mundu, Sahatunga, Tanichi Zubal Nebachi Chen Damanda Mumudua. Or the Chen Latin Yores, Manji led on Treji, Chenji, Jungis, Nabajawa Tadane, Regi Dumanugis, Nabajawa Tadak, Nago Katu Gali Cabres, Dumanuji, Shoyan Tala, Tanto Nabashi Guedes, Dungan to Shoyan, ane dunga tanlang zoba gugres tanto lambi zoba shi gude temena dunga nyoma ti tindos dunga tabara tato dunga nyome ti tindo rangi tubi jebe senteje dunga nene shintu zo kawa jola asa ta dunga yoba yin tel senteje ta don te kan la dunga mamu yongres ta nga na nu kan da yin sama sen ma de chan zo kawa jola tanle dunga zo ba yena dunga jejade de malu jang de la mine yi ma do jibi senteje dunga de Temmenjong, senteje dunga temmenjong las. Dunga tanlang zoba yena, dunga de jejade, dunga de malu jang, dunga de yoba yena ya. Tela mine, yimede shebe, senteje dunga tenne yong mares. Tangal dunga yong dote, senteje gange yong mares. Menjong la, dunga jen tela lanto cheta shebe dunga che chungwa yu zoba nubi shirosa dunga jen talang lanto dunga tanglan che zoba lanto cheta shebe dunga che chungwa dunga tanglan zoba yoba yenan susu dunga chung ruba yuwares yu zoba nubi dunga tanlang zoba gong nyugres, zoba nubi shiro. Tena jusen te ishina, dunga tanlang ji zoba ne shintu chogos. Na wate dunga tanlang zoba gong shida ke chibres, nanga chibres, ne chogos.
Less so.
What about?
Okay. All right, so yourself to virtue. Moreover, some sufferings will be caused by others, and some will be produced by your former karma, whether or not you strive at the path. Some, as will be explained below, occur when you engage in virtuous activity, but do not occur when you are not engaged. For the time being, you cannot dispel the sufferings definitely produced by the power of former karma and immediate conditions. You must accept them when they arise. So there are many causes and conditions which can make for the experience to have that can there are many causes and conditions within your life that can spur one of the seeds to ignite, if you will. I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this, which will then create an experience. So we have various karmas, and we have a lot of non-virtuous karmas, and whenever there is a condition that's appropriate, then that can ignite and cause that karma that's always has the potential to create experience to create an experience. So there just has to be some kind of link or relation. So Rinpoche said that you could be eating and drinking, and there could be some connectivity that takes place conditional-wise, and a karma will arise, and then experience occurs of suffering or of happiness. Because there are so many varieties of conditions which will link to these non-virtuous seeds, just parentheses, in terms of relationship that can make their ability turn into an experience. So these seeds have this ability to turn into an experience, and we have so many conditions in our lives, and when there's a condition that links with a specific seed in some way or another, then that seed has the potential to produce an experience. So we could be eating, Rinpoche said we could be drinking, we could be doing anything in our life, creating virtue, and suddenly we're connected in some way or engaging in an action that creates a condition for this arisal to occur. So because this can happen, I don't want to say haphazardly, but it can happen at any time, this is why it says, for the time being, you cannot dispel the sufferings definitely produced by the power of your former karma, because there's so much of it. So it's going to occur when you're engaging in virtue. It says even sometimes when you don't engage in virtue, it doesn't occur, but when you engage in virtue, it does occur. So we can't say that there's a definite way to act a certain way to not have to suffer. Suffering will occur. So we have to develop this patience, and then it goes on to say why we need to do this. So the causes and conditions are present, and then an experience occurs. And what those links are, just as a translator's note, are very, very subtle. And this karma is more, Buddha said, difficult to understand than emptiness. It takes an omniscient mind to understand what condition, why the taste of a Coca-Cola connected to when you killed someone in a previous life. That's what we're talking about, the subtlety here. This is all translator's note. That's the kind of subtlety we're talking about here, what Rinpoche is talking about. Some connectivity and that creates this occurrence. So it's going to occur. Now, you must accept them when they arise because, 1, you do not do this in addition to the basic suffering you have, the suffering of worry that is produced by your own thought, and then suffering becomes very difficult for you to bear. So it makes it even stronger by not accepting it. It compounds it and makes, because your mind starts to really think about it, not accept it, it compounds it. If you accept the suffering, you let the basic suffering be and do not stop it, but you never have the suffering of worry that creates a discontentment when you focus on the basic suffering. And since you are using a method to bring even basic suffering into path, you greatly lessen your suffering so you can bear it. Therefore, it's very crucial that you generate the patience that accepts suffering. So in number 2, if you just accept the suffering, it doesn't stop the suffering itself, but the mental wandering, the mental suffering connected to the suffering is stopped. So there's a layer of suffering that's actually extinguished by accepting it and by having this patience. If you accept the suffering, you let the basic suffering be and do not stop it. So the suffering still goes on, but you never have the suffering of worry that creates discontentment when you focus on that basic suffering. So the suffering isn't compounded by worry and discontentment. And then you're using actually a technique to transform it into a path. So you realize that this is going to cause future happiness. So it gives you encouragement, basically, because of your studies supporting what you're doing. Disong. That's more a lesson in true mason.
Okay.
I told Rinpoche that I gave some notes. He doesn't mind when I do this, by the way. I'm not like freestyling over here. He's always said that it's okay for me to do this if it seems like it would add understanding, as long as it doesn't change meaning. And I'm very aware not to change meaning. Diksung Rinpoche. So now we've completed the first category, the reason you must accept definitely accept suffering. And now we move on to the next category, which is the method, the way to develop this acceptance, how to do it, the method for developing this. Diksung.
Dungan shungan tachi du maga chejuwe ma res, maga wata ga gu res. Dungan tetang tu langwa yueba tenbas, dungan tetang tu langwa yueba tenbas, dungan shungshung na dungan tetang tu langwa yuega res, langwa gu re yuega res, tenba wu. Tangbo ne, dungan tetang tu langwa tachi du maga wa gaba te, Tombane dungan shunga la te dungan shunga te lhachu su duna ne dungan shunga te kumeba zuya ki tashi yoba ina duna ne I medo shama go las I medo che go mares chusu morona ne dungan chusu morona magawa shejang pemba yo mares pemba mebe ne guni menjin Nyami jang yuede, zirchina dungan tam shintu zokalas and dungan la mazoba shichiba yoba yina dungan chuchung chumba yina kumazoba chima yungures dungan tam shintu zokalas dungan tamlaya zoba gunga kali kabu yores zirchuna dungan la ne dungan danla zoba yoba yina zirchuna dungan chimba sen nubise ne dungan chimba dana sen nugres sen nubise de kedu jusu yona ne tela mega shichigu jishi kedu jusu mena ne tela mega shichiben shedan 차단 차단 lonsudan nedan chindan disula dagsir majade tedar shena nabape shesos terapena nabape shesos ta dunga chibayina da chung karayina ode dunga tanlen zoba gwatshi kechebres te kunto de shönjü samarba ke dunga de jusu yena jus kedu jusu mena dunga jusu mena tela magashi chepens dunga jusu mena tela magashi na gubayo mares cheben shedan 차단 차이 dunga dan chabi dunga dan ne long tu ji dunga dan long tu dan ne ji dunga dan chin dunga dibala sobi dunga la dag zir majate dunga le wote mezobaten jeju mares zir majate teda shena naba pes zir jeba yina naba de peongres shesos what the college na
Rinpoche, the dets dunda,
yeah
gangen sinange sampa the pento, the shunju lung, the tambo, lung tambo, shade pento do.
o de shunju isara ni jamarba
Less
shunju reando
the shunju do.
yeah
The kabagutso, the imikya, zerse chona, the
kedu jusu
the
yena
gerde, yeah, the gerde chusu yuna.
dunga jusu yena ne tela magashi jeyus
The
kedu
kitchen.
jusu mena ne dunga jusu mena magashi na ten pentua yo maris
The nyepo,
Japan
the nyepo mena,
ne jusu men nebasa gurbada
dandrar.
odrabure
Okay.
shedan 차단 lontu 다 dunga ga dang hadu dang marbe 차순나 차이 dunga 용거래 장순나 장이 dunga 용거래 차바 당순나 dunga 요로 나 lonsu라 되네 dunga
Ale.
나순나 dunga 요로
Lessa.
네 친와 타바르 담바이나 되네 dunga 요로다 친다 디바 네 와데 데라 담바이나 와데 dunga 용거로
Zupa mena.
아
Ale. Zupa mena.
술라다
Ale.
zirmajadis
Okay.
dunga tanang zoba gongures
Lessa.
tata majena nabade peungures shesos
Tuchena. Okay. So now we move on to B, the way to develop the acceptance, or the method for developing acceptance. There's two categories: rejecting the idea that when suffering occurs it is absolutely unpleasant, and two, showing that it is appropriate to accept suffering. So there'll be these two categories. First category, rejecting the idea when suffering occurs it is absolutely unpleasant. So we transform the mind here from thinking of suffering as being unpleasant to transforming it into another way of thinking. If you can remedy a situation wherein suffering occurs, you do not need to feel that it is unpleasant. If you cannot remedy it, it is not helpful to find it unpleasant. So there is no need for or effectiveness to your displeasure. There is even a slight disadvantage. If you are very impatient, a slight suffering is extremely difficult to bear. Whereas if you minimize your impatience, you can endure great suffering. So here it's stating that if there is a remedy for a certain situation, then why worry? Why let it disturb your mind? Because there is a remedy. If there's no remedy for a situation, by letting it disturb your mind, you're creating more suffering than the situation that there's no remedy for. Because you're creating something that isn't necessary. There is a suffering that's necessary if there's no way to cure it, if there's no antidote. So there's a suffering that you must endure there if there's no antidote. But if you let it affect you, then you're creating a new suffering on top of that suffering. So it's saying that if you cannot remedy it, it is not helpful to find it unpleasant. So there is no need for or effectiveness to your displeasure. There is even a disadvantage. So what is the disadvantage? If you become impatient, then just the slightest amount of suffering becomes unbearable, because it's just, it seems like something that just you in no way stop about thinking about. So this very slight thing can be disproportionate to its reality, whereas if you have this patience, you can endure a great amount of suffering and not have this effect that even a slight amount of suffering would cause you to have. So then we find the quote from Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds, that supports this. If there is a remedy, why be displeased? If there is no remedy, what is the use of being displeased? And also, I shall not be impatient with heat, cold, wind, rain, illness, bondage, beatings, and so on. If I am, the harm increases. If I need to have patience with the suffering of heat, because heat will be hot. Suffering of the patience of cold, because cold will be cold, and the suffering. Have patience with the suffering of wind, rain, illness, bondage, beatings, and so on, because they are what they are in terms of their name. The heat is hot, cold is cold. So the suffering that is connected to it, if I'm impatient with it, I create, as it says in Lama Tsongkhapa's point, another layer of suffering besides the one that's occurring no matter what. So Shantideva, this is where Lama Tsongkhapa gets the information from, so he's showing the source material for this point. Diksung Rinpoche.
Ta nipa dunga tangda lang yueba, tala song rendo, nipa dunga tangda lang yueba tala song. Dunga rang ki yuen ten samba tang, dunga jikaji zubi yuen ten sambas, dunga ki yuen ten samba, dunga tanglang ki zuba, gombi pen samba, chungri ne kona, ne dunga chungul zuba gomba ina, ne zuba kali kabi yamari, lel habi yungures, chungri ne kona, mekayi chulo, ta tangbo dunga rang ki yuen ten samba la nga rendo nga.
Less so. Decent.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we move on to number 2, under the major heading of the way to develop acceptance. So we've completed rejecting the idea that when suffering occurs, it is absolutely unpleasant. And now we move on to showing that it is appropriate to accept suffering. So this has 3 parts. Reflecting on the good qualities of suffering, reflecting on the advantages of bearing suffering's hardships, and how it is not difficult to bear suffering if you gradually grow accustomed to it, starting with small. So then we begin with number 1, which is A here, but number 1, reflecting on the good qualities of suffering. So then we're going to get into 5 different parts. 5 parts. Diksung Rinpoche.
Ta tambo wate dunga rang ki yuen ten samba tala nga rendo tambo nga che, nga de shuo sana, dunga tanglen menas, dunga tanglen juba mena, tala ngen jung de meche yus, dunga tanglen juba mena, dunga la ngen jung samba yungu mares, meche yu, tabala yuki, ane dunga teke wate tabal roya kete kumashi kres, ane dunga shonsuna, dunga gabi yo marwa, ane dunga tana nyabe sanlu yungde koro, dunga tawa taba marbe, tabal yeku yu, ten dans, tabal rushu kumashi bandabres,
Guma Sheba?
그 저런 어디 타발 두고 그랬을 네 로반 로버스
Okay.
그 대단 등에지 태바나 등에 해주나 등에 해주나 롱베 토안지베 제바시 대단 등에 종소나 롱베 토안지베 네 나제 정하게 내가 통보연합에 네 제바스는 등에 요서 네 나제 차는 그래서
Lesso.
집에 제바시 대단스 때네 나제 여기나 등을 해서 나오던 나제 차는 거지로다 등에 초아 잡은 용하나 등에 초아 잡은 용하나 먹어갈래 쇼유 저부터 먼저나 줄래 두고베 딜란제비엔데스 ane dunga de gabu yo ma dunga de maga na dunga ge ju de maga wa bon gures wato son marba dunga so ta bu nyo na ane dunga de ge se ju yo ma re sentient ta ji do ba ji ba re dunga men do ba ji ba re ane dunga men do ba yin za ane dunga ge ju de bon gures magawale dunga de magawale shon yare magawat mongores debut de na gulle magawate do gobe dilan zebientes ne dibalan zebientes ji wares ote dunga je dumba na doan de bes dunga shonsona na ngasu do gabiyoro doan de be Dwad gogo yena goba yena jo godrubal dru gobe godrubala gayudes ne dwad doba yena dwag jo de gware god drugures de drugobe yede yede da rang nyala pa ne seje je ya de tar dunge lo nyane Kuana chamba nala hinji jawa wos. Tada dan te chune rangi chan yueden jen sheba shela dungen dene debi ne so nyato nalo ya jante dungen meba ngenju me ane te yu senchu tenba yu shedan shunju menwa jen dungen yueden 주 제바서와시 코아발란 힌지체 딜란 제신 글라가 셰소스
Lesso.
what 등엔 쇼소나 등엔 가버요 말와 등엔 가버면서 등엔 되고 말면 돼 간중 선바서 됐어 간중 선바
Lesso.
라니 등엔도 전도들 간중 선바데 제르미니 등엔도 전도들 힌지라고 그랬어 힌지 라기도 들리선 몰라도 마미나 제지도 갈라치스 राती dunga de tane ya be sanlo de mala de me ba yina ne jela me bi hinji ka ne yori o mares ute shoju mar be
Lesso.
ya
Decent.
ya
Okay. So reflecting on good qualities of suffering. Suffering has 5 good qualities. We read all this, right? I read the three categories. Yes. Suffering has 5 good qualities. First, the good quality of spurring you on to liberation. So pushing you towards, making you head towards liberation. This is because if you had no suffering, you would not develop the determination to be free of it. So if you did not have suffering, then you wouldn't develop renunciation. A desire to definitely emerge wouldn't be there. So the suffering itself creates this inspiration for renunciation. Number 2, the good quality of dispelling arrogance. So it is said that suffering is an antidote to pride and arrogance. So when you're feeling superior, when you have suffering, you realize that this is incorrect. Your inflated opinion is incorrect when you have a really large amounts of suffering. It says This is because when suffering strikes you, it reduces your sense of superiority. So it serves as an antidote or an opponent to this idea of grandeur. So anyway, the good quality of causing you to shun non-virtue or sin, misdeeds. This is because it's strange they're using this word sin. There's a lot of different translators, so they sometimes use misdeeds, sometimes they use sin. But just realize that word here is just the word for doing something wrong, a misdeed. It doesn't connect to sinner or sin when we would have it in the normal context. Similar, because it means doing something wrong, but it's not the same exact thing. So we just have to separate it from what we would normally think of sin. That's why most translators use misdeeds or wrongdoings. Those two are, I think, better. Misdeeds or wrongdoings. This is because when you experience very painful feelings, they arise from non-virtue. So if you do not want these effects, you must avoid their causes. So all of the various types of suffering that we have to experience are caused by non-virtue. By understanding this, makes us not want to engage in more of it. Because we have this suffering, we know what causes it, and it dissuades us from creating more because we know what it does. The good quality of causing you to like cultivating virtue. This is because when you are tormented with suffering, you desire happiness. And once you want it, you must cultivate the virtue that causes it. So this, again, encourages you and makes you like to cultivate virtue because all sentient beings have this common idea of wanting to have happiness. So this common idea that pervades all sentient beings makes it so that when one thinks about it, a sentient being thinks about it, this happiness that everyone desires is caused by virtue. Then it inspires the practitioner to engage in virtue, to create the experience that he or she desires. The good quality of causing you to like cultivating virtue. This is because when you are tormented with suffering, you desire happiness, and once you want it, you must cultivate the virtue that causes it. So you're having suffering happen, and you realize that you want happiness, and the suffering that you're having happen is caused by a misdeed previously, and the happiness that you want is caused by virtue that you engage in or previously engaged in. So this encourages you to expel non-virtue and engage in virtue. The good quality of producing compassion for those who wander in cyclic existence. This is because after you have assessed your own situation, you think, other beings suffer like this. From these 5 and what they indicate, recognize their other good qualities on your own, and then repeatedly train your mind to think, this suffering is a condition that I want. Engaging in the Bodhisattva deed says, since without suffering there is no determination to be free, you, mind, stay fixed. So here it's stating that this renunciation, which is the determination to be free, that's what it's referring to, desire to definitely get out, is caused by thinking about suffering and wanting to be free from it. So it's saying, mind, stay fixed on this determination to be free, recognizing suffering and its causes, basically. Furthermore, the good qualities of suffering are that you dispel arrogance with disenchantment, develop compassion for the beings of cyclic existence, carefully avoid sin or misdeeds, and delight in virtue. So more from the Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, supporting material for Lama Tsongkhapa's points that he made. So when we think about our own suffering, we develop a desire to definitely emerge. We develop a renunciation. When we turn that towards other sentient beings and we think of their suffering and wanting them to be free from their suffering, then this is what great compassion is referring to. So renunciation is when we think of our own suffering and want to get out, and compassion is when we think of others suffering and want to get them out of it. And it says in Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, how how could I think of other people's suffering or freeing others from their suffering if I haven't even dreamt of my own? Or how could I even dream of freeing others from their suffering if I haven't even thought of my own? So the point to this is that we must first understand what suffering is and develop a desire to emerge for ourselves, and then turn it towards others. But what Shanti Dev is saying is that we must first understand what it is from our side before we can understand what others would feel like and want to liberate them. I think that's it. Nye Tsampa Kanga. Diksang Rinpoche.
Ta nipa treba si yun, nipa la nyi, treba si yun de la nyi ji, taba la subi, duen chi yun de samba dan, duen pa dume ba dubi yun de samba wos, oto treba si yun de la saji nyi digan duwa, taba la subi, duen chi yun de.
Lessa.
Dene duen pa dume ba dubi yun de samba nyi, de taba la subi duen chi yun de samba, tamba ne, da ngon kowa na, ne kui tse, ne guba meba deba chungzi ri che to, ne dungan chungwa she jang, dungan toma che to se ne, shima la, dungan pa to meba nyong yu, ju chubi tuen mebi, dungan toma tang to len la, dungan toma tang to len la, ta ne da rangyen ji pen de pa do men ba rubi gwa la shu ba she jin do hama le ne shiwa montra shiwa cha mon juru do dunga tan do len ba rina de yu chung la ta ji men nya do yang lu tenpa shawos su sung du sana xuan ju les
Lessa.
debi tento si la su nima tong cha nyu chu chang rangi tentang ne yen chi tenta ma ji so dene tetang nemi la tenchen ta chang run ju yu Rui sen dungan la gawan baji deja ri she songpa tar rangyen ji dungan kanyan rongwa madrubi kaji te tang sheba la san ne ta ne dungan champan dungan shir dungan ji shir mezu Tena dungan yue jang da tabu sha yue ba ne da ki nyeba leba nyang tu san pon towa jeba sha wos pon towa jeba sha wos ta teni ba wade da kowa na kui tse 나 저 동만번 나서 코알 뭐 그대로 코알 그네 된다 주주 되는 거 된다래 동네 단돌래네 네 내손 네 몸을 내고 그래요
Lessa. Sadu. Lessa.
동네 도마 단도 라나 다네 라제지 팬 봐도 매봐 주비 거라 쇼바 she jin do hamale dunga dang la ba do ne shiwa cha monju do dunga dang la wa rinas ne monju ge dunga dang la wa rina ana dunga chung dang la zo ba ne ke cha yu ma res ha che gu nya do ya lo den ba sha wos ne dunga chbu do ga lo dang la zo ba gongba yina dungan chuchung dungan danglang zoba gongba na wote keche yo marinya lu temba zogur dungan danglang zoba de lu temba zogur temba shawo Susung to Sana Shunju Le Jans, David Nando Sila Su, David Nando, Rangi Tundal, Tene, what the Dungan Mumasa, Jen Neba Mumachi, what in the Jene, and then Yawan Nasul Jene, Dungamu, Yawa don't try New Jang. Dag Rangi Tundan, Jenji Tun Majisu, Hemal, what in the Jene Sheo Maris, Rangi Tun, Jenji Tun Sheo Maris, Majiso. Then at the time, no maybe, no mila, Tenchetajan, Roju, ne Ru, no said Dungela, Gambaji, Derisha, Shesumba the Taka, Susu Dungananda, Jenji Dunganda, Susu Dungan Shusuna, and the Dungan of Banganjuk Samba. And the Jenji Dungan the Tenanabi, Kinjugua, what Shidag, Kishabares. 这种人民啦，全县大将，入狱，入那些东人啦，入那些东人啦，高巴吉，德里夏，谁送把带儿，他东人，人家东，刚要满足呗，自己的上些吧啦，上呢。 다네 전부 루비 동에 지실 무슨 네 전부 루비 시대 네 동에 당는 거 공부하더네 지실 무슨 동에 당는 거 공부레스 대나 동에 유장 드다부 샤유베 다기 레바 녀도 녀네 삼판 토지버 샤우스
Lesso?
다 동에 유나 네 동네 동란 지소바 공화요로 어디 동네 동란 지소바 공화요바 지라 거 좀버레스 대나 동네 유장 데 다보 동네 동란 지소바 샤요바 다기레바 녀도 동네 동란 지소바 뭐베 어디 그거데 아버님 봐 녀도 녀네 센토아 집어셔오스 센주 차주요 말에 세야 토버제 우레스
Okay, decent.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we begin with another new section, B, reflecting on the advantages of bearing suffering's hardship. 2 categories, reflecting on the crucial benefits such as liberation, etc. 2, reflecting on the benefit of dispelling immeasurable suffering. So we begin with 1, reflecting on the crucial benefits such as liberation, etc. Repeatedly make your mind steadfast, thinking, I know that in the past, while passing through cyclic existence, I suffered for the sake of trifling desires and minor needs, yet I disregarded the many sufferings, undergoing a great deal of purposeless suffering that will in turn cause immeasurable suffering for me in my future lives. Given this, now that I know that I am engaged in virtue that will accomplish immeasurable benefits and happiness for myself and others, it is appropriate that I accept suffering 1,000,000,000 times more than before. Of course I will accept suffering smaller than that. So here it's saying that for the sake of trifling desire and attachments and minor needs, we've undergone suffering in the past and been okay with it. We've said we'll undergo this suffering because of these desires we have, these needs that we have. So we have undergone a great deal of suffering without purpose, for no reason. Now, if we in turn think about the lasting happiness that we are trying to achieve, then, and we compare it to the happiness we were seeking and being willing to suffer for, that isn't lasting, we can see that we should be able to deal with a lot more suffering than we would be able to deal with for some trifling desires. So, needless to say, something small we should be able to deal with. So that's what Lama Tsongkhapa is saying. We should, because we've been willing to go through all these various sufferings for silly desires, then we should be able to go through a lot more suffering for something that's substantial and lasting. But so needless to say, if we should be able to do something that's even a lot more, we should really be able to handle. It says, so of course I will accept suffering smaller than that. So we should be able to handle that if we compare it to what we were willing to go through before. Except engaging in the Bodhisattva deed says, and it also, given this, now that I know I am engaged in virtue that will accomplish immeasurable benefits and happiness for myself and others. So how we develop the happiness for ourselves is by developing a desire to emerge, by getting renunciation. So we desire to emerge from this suffering. But once we recognize our own suffering, then we turn it to others and recognize their suffering as well. So that renunciation then is transformed into compassion, a compassion that wishes to free those other beings from their suffering, like one wishes to be free from his or her own suffering. So this is how one goes from renunciation, an attitude of self-concern, to compassion, which is an attitude of other concern. So here it says we gain happiness for ourselves and others. So if I think that's it. Our own compassion, make my own renunciation. Okay, and then where does this material come from? Again, we find it in Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, or Engaging in the Bodhisattva Deeds. For the sake of my desires, I have experienced being burned, etc., thousands of times in the hells, but have not achieved either my own welfare or the welfare of others. This is not as harmful as that, and it achieves great purpose. So it is correct here only to delight in the suffering that clears away all beings hurt. So again, it's saying if in the past for trifling things I was willing to suffer, why wouldn't I be willing to do so if I could cure all beings hurt? So that's the point that's being made. This is not as harmful as that, and it achieves great purpose. So it is correct here only to delight in suffering that clears away all beings hurt. Thus, after you reflect on how you have previously created only hardship that did not accomplish any of your own or others' aims, uplift your mind thinking, why am I not now bearing a suffering that achieves great purpose? Although I am suffering, how excellent that I have found something like this to do. Here this is transforming negative circumstances into a practice that actually out of these negative circumstances comes ultimate happiness. Okay. Sheong. Somewhere, I think.
What is Sheong? Singing a busy, singing a bit lunar, singing a bit lunar, there may be long about long, don't just on la chumbatan, mangatemba so. Suji, Gaji Zuba Sheva dance. What that was over that the Shiriba in Europe, Mangatemba, don't just on la chumbas, Debatan, Debatab Tolle, and the Mangatembas, Mangatem Shujil Majetan.
Lesso.
Tulumanya Mag Siguro. What the Dugan
Lesso.
Mangata, Majetan, Nimag Tibi, and Dugan what the Susan Anajiba in the Debatan,
Lesso.
Mangatembas. Then don't just on la chumba, don't just on the Jana, the Gonchon, the Debatan,
Lesso.
what the Senior Lubag, what the Shin, what the chicken you are,
The Kashe, the Dre, Ducha, Sa.
Mangatem, Debata, Mare, don't just want to be Debata, Mares,
Lesso.
Debasagro.
Also call it Ducha Sagadu.
What the Napoleon is out of the Yeah, singing a bay. Maybe long about Nabalon, don't just on la chumbatan, Mangatemba Suchi, Kachi, Zoba Shebatans, what the Shenian Lubaka Tanishina, what the Dibatag is.
That's so.
What the Suki Dibatayum, Dibasag is.
The Arila, the Yure, the make Ja, Trunka Kinishin make, the Kanga poison sason. Then Khensur Kanga Rangse song. Then Khensur do Tarpa draw. They do La Sana, then Tarpa draw. Then make Kanga Pugo, then me Mambo. They lo Jungama, lo Jungangama. Me Mambo Rangse song. Then Khensur Sampa Tarlang. The Yure.
Yeah. Jidemi goba mebi che to shin le dan shin ka le ya
Leso.
chongja ya yu je ba ma su ji dongen toman la sen zu ba nam sanes wade sane kaji ji menji ba je ba shawos kaji ji menji ba dongen dana go zoba gomba la menji ba shawures
Leso.
ne karesana ana chongja ga da ma dan wade zo ge dongen le chera kale jo to was
Leso.
hotel bajan wade sanju a je gore sin sare
Leso. Moreover, develop a fearless attitude towards hardship, thinking how you were misled by bad teachers to ignoble, purposeless paths whereon you endured ascetic practices such as leaping on a trident and sitting close to 5 fires and the like, and think of how, for the sake of inferior, mundane purposes, you made yourself bear many sufferings in farming, business, and war. So here it's saying that in the past lives and so forth, you've been willing to endure needless sufferings for the sake of spiritual means. So what this means here is in ancient Indian practices and practices today, I'll get to the point in a minute, you'll find various activities that state that if you do them, you'll be liberated. In ancient India, you find in the tenet systems, in the texts, where they describe some of the non-Buddhist schools. One such school believed that if you made yourself suffer, the more you made yourself suffer, the more closer you would come to liberation. So they would build fires around themselves and sit under the sun. So the 5 fires, they would build for all the directions, they would make a fire, and then I think under them or above them, or the sun, I think, was the 5th fire. So they would basically sit and cook and endure this suffering, and they believed that this would somehow lead them to liberation by being hot and by enduring this hardship. Another ancient school said if you jumped on a trident just right, a 3-pronged trident, and it went through your body in a special way, that would liberate you. So there were beings that would do this. And this all sounds silly until you think about the next point. Rinpoche said groups of people taking poison because they think that they could be liberated. We've seen that in our own society, where cults have said that the Heaven's Gate, other cults have said that if you take this poison, you will be liberated. So we don't have to go to ancient texts, that's what we're talking about, to ancient Indian texts to find charlatans, bad teachers that teach pathways to non-liberation, but they state that they lead to liberation. So we've been willing in the past it says purposeless paths. So purposeless paths meaning pathways that do not lead to liberation. So these things that we have done in the past and suffered because we thought that they would help us somehow. They thought they would lead us to liberation. These activities, practices, exercises that we've engaged in because we thought they would lead to some kind of liberation. Or practices we engage in because they thought they would lead to some kind of happiness and we were willing to suffer for the sake of work or the sake of, it says, bearing sufferings in farming, business, and even going to war, being willing to go into a war and bear that kind of suffering because of some thought of good result. So if we look at the willingness that we have had in this life and previous lives to endure suffering, and then we compare that to why we would endure suffering in this context, it seems obvious that we should engage in the patience which is willing to endure suffering based on the logic behind it. So this is reflecting on the crucial benefits such as liberation, etc. So by engaging in this patience, by having this patience that willing to endure these hardships, then we're actually transforming these circumstances into a pathway which leads to liberation. So if we say, what are some of the benefits of being patient or having patience for hardship, we say liberation, freedom from all suffering forever. I mean, that's the biggest benefit there could be. So that's why this is one point that's made. There are many other benefits, but the ultimate benefit would be liberation. So it's showing that connectivity, and it's showing how we've been willing to endure suffering from bad teachers or for just worldly, mundane reasons. We should be willing to endure suffering for this. Khensur Rinpoche. So the
다 송바 등에 빠도 매버 두비 편한 송바스 나가는 송바 딩자마다 나바 나가는 송바 등에 빠도 매버 두비 편한 송바스 등에 송송나 등에 달라 저바 공기나 등에 빠도 매버 두비 편요하스 편한 상당고레스 편한 송바네 쇠비 메시라비 소문 당 제네 쇠발라 타나 가와 첨부제바 따르 매일 가지지 등에 참은데 시코와 타메다 쳐버도 녀와라 소비 낸류 등에 땡도 네바네 신도 레소 냐도 태당 연지 등에 니지 쳐버나 레바산나 까지라 문제비 힌두 제데 세제 메시 라제데 그데 타나 제말레 그데 메이동에지 녀와 되나 제말레 셰소스 어디 손바디 인사래 다 등에 빠도 마바두베 등에 당랑 저바 여바이나 안에 달라테네 등에 빠도 마바두베 편요하레스 쇠비 메시 뻔나 example 쇠비 메시 소무탄제네 네 쇠발을 타나는 가부지가 왔어 그 쇠야 임발라 다 조구지 바네 근데 쇠 먹어봐 지서나 그 가부지가 와 example 말봐 저와 따르 매일까지 지동에 참모 전제 시코와 담에다 쳐봐도 녀와라 소비 낸류 등에 땡도 뇌나 신도 레손창도 최연지 등에니지 쳐버 코아시 등에다 쳐봐지 등에 남 레바사나 까지라 문제비 신도 제대 세제 메시 라제데 게데 타나 지말레 게데 메이 등에지 녀와 타나 지말레 셰소사
that's
오다 등에 갈수 그래
the nipa.
어디 송바 말봐
Yeah, nipa. The nipa ewa ni yere. Tambo the tarpa the payun tarpa. Then the nipa the payun. Then a sumba the gutso the churim ne gom na megawa ne the sumba.
등에 달래 주에 대시고 등에 달래 까지 주비 상바 초리네 고나 송제 동불랑가래도
That's
등에 랑게 된 상바들랑가
that's
등에 메나 들라 나반 주도 매지 타발라 이구에 된 동부지
that's
등에 지 태바나 토안집이 제바시 된 이바지 등에 지 토와 잡고 뇨와나 먹어와래 종유 제부면도 나죠 딜란 제베에 대해서 송바제 등에지 동화나 도완되베 대구나 안나기 디주 거와도 그래서
j'ai pas.
두고바 말바
That's
라기 냐라바네 세제제야 내가 등에로 냐도 코아나 참바나 히지지 나바이 말나바
that's the tambo.
no
The nipa ewa ni yere. The tambo ewa nga.
ora
The nipa ewa ni.
예발 여와니
Then
타바투비 전시 변성바다
that's
등아바데마 두비 변성바니제
the nipa ngatsu gutso son. The
ora 니바르바
ngatsu loson. Nipa leson. The data yen Rinpoche.
야
Lo mason. Loka mason. Okay, so now we move on to number 2, reflecting on the benefits of dispelling immeasurable suffering. So just going through the outline again, we were on category number 2. Category number 2 has 3 categories. reflecting on the good qualities of suffering, reflecting on the advantages of bearing suffering's hardships, and how it is not difficult to bear suffering if you gradually grow accustomed to it, starting with small. Number 1 has 5 categories. First category, the good quality, so 5 categories, reflecting on the good qualities of suffering. The good quality of spurring to you to liberation, because this helps you to, I'll just read it, because Rinpoche pretty much did. This is because if you had no suffering, you would not develop the determination to be free. The good quality of dispelling arrogance. This is because when your suffering strikes you, it reduces your sense of superiority. The good quality of causing you to shun sin. This is because when you experience very painful feelings, they arise from non-virtue. So if you do not want these effects, you must avoid their causes. The good quality of causing you to like cultivating virtue. This is because when you're tormented by suffering, you desire happiness. Virtue is what causes happiness. The good quality of producing compassion for those who wander in cyclic existence. This is because after you have assessed your own situation, you then want to help others. So you develop compassion for others. So these are the 5 categories in number 1. Number 2 has 2 categories, reflecting on the crucial benefits such as liberation, etc., and reflecting on the benefit of dispelling immeasurable suffering. We finished the first category, reflecting on the crucial benefits such as liberation, and now we move on to number 2, reflecting on the benefit of dispelling immeasurable suffering. Reflect well on the difference between short-term and long-term suffering, thinking, a man who is to be executed is overjoyed when he is freed from execution by merely his finger cut off. So if someone is going to be killed, and then the executioner says, instead of killing you today, we're going to cut off your finger. We're going to cut just one of your fingers off, and then you can go home. You would be overjoyed if the zugu, if you only lost a finger, and then you could go home. How excellent it would be if similarly, by means of this slight suffering of human hardship, I could permanently dispel the suffering of limitless cyclic existence in general, and in particular the sufferings of miserable realms such as hell, etc. If you do this well, you produce fearless courage with respect to hardship. And then we have a quote from Shantidevas engaging in the Bodhisattva's deeds. How is it unfortunate if a man who is to be executed is freed from that by having his hand cut off? How is it unfortunate if by human suffering you are released from hell? So if we can look at, here's another way to look at the benefit of suffering, is that if in this lifetime we have a small amount of suffering, but that small amount of suffering gets rid of some kind of suffering in the future we would have to endure that would be a great amount of suffering, then this is a good thing. If we're experiencing a suffering now, to be able to miss a suffering which would be a lifetime in a hell realm, then enduring this suffering is much better. So like the person who has their finger cut off, instead of being executed, we should feel good that we're having to endure this smaller amount of suffering as compared to what we could endure. Because if we are engaging in virtuous practices, our larger future sufferings could come out in this lifetime in smaller forms. So we can look at it like that, saying, I've now gotten rid of the potential for a very big suffering by enduring this very small suffering. So this is the point that's made in Shantideva's guide. And then Sumba Chongrim Nipa Tsa Ngatsu Sheso, then Chongrim ne Gomna Megawa ne Ngatsu de lesson, this Sumba. Chongrim ne Gomna Sheso, the Shunju Lungsar. Then Sheso, Jipja Jugo Uma Dandra de Shunju de Dandra.
What the lesson?
This the Chongrim.
Oh yeah.
Chongrim ne.
Chongrim ne Gona Magawanas. Dunga Chuchun to Talang Zoba Gontoba Ina, Dunga Jibatan.
Less so.
Magawa ne Gona La Maju, Modanga Yomai, and Kubaji in a Kali Kabi in a Tama, Kalikali Lilhab Chayong, what is
less so.
Gona La Maju, Modanga Yomai, the Te naba chung gombe, naba chenpo zoba shas, naba chunchung le dunga tangla zoba gomtuba ina, naba chibale dunga tangla zoba gomba te yungures, naba chenpo zoba sha,
Lesso.
she songba tar,
Lesso.
dunga tangto lambi sambi gocha zona, dunga tangla ji sambi gocha zona, dunga chungri ne, sinji she na, dunga tangto lamba, to jeje so joros, dunga chungone dunga tangla zoba gomba ina, ane dunga tangla zoba te wate, to chichenro shagres,
Lesso.
dunga tangto lamba, to jeje so joro, su songo dusan la tuile, shanjine wa la tuile chang, tela dunga chungla, gomba kondu tana, kawa tang, shinto kawa la, gomba rutes, dunga chungun tanglang zoba gomba ina, dunga chimbat zo kangalo tanglang zoba tan rugres, gomba rute, pena, gombi onki senjan tangji, dunga la, dawan dwe sheba tejin dos, senjan tangji dunga la, dawan dwe sheba jinto, dunga shunga tangji, dawa, dwe she nyawa jaba gombi, di dweshe nyedo nyawa neban joros wada desong do lwa puna kombi wangi senjen taji ji dongen de senjen taji ji dongen la dawa yin san gomba yina dawa ndu sheba tejin do dongen shunga taji dawa ndu sheba jaba gombes dunga shunga tangchi dawa yinba gombe, diyin dweshe,
Nidu nyewa ne.
diyin dweshe nyin to, nyawa neba joros, diyin dweshe. Dunga la dawa yin san tamba yina, dunga la diyin dweshe tu yungu res.
Lesso.
Dweshe nyawa neba joro, she soos,
Lesso.
사실 단지 견류 강화 공부스 사실 단지를 rugu kandiyo maro. Te ina to gomba ina, ane tinga nika te tonga yuedaro da, tendrabo.
Okay.
Saji tangi kandiyo
Lesson.
gomba tinga, wado tendrabo insa marwa.
Okay, so now we're at 3. How it is not difficult to bear suffering if you gradually grow accustomed to it, starting with small. Engaging in the Bodhisattva deed says, Shantideva, there is nothing whatsoever that does not become easier through habituation. So by becoming used to small harms, you will bear great harms as well. So again, this word habituation is the word in Tibetan gom, for meditation. So we use this word meditation. It just means to familiarize, to habituate. There is nothing, I would read it like this, there is nothing whatsoever that does not become easier through meditation. So by becoming used to small harms, you will bear great harms as well. Familiarizing yourself. After you have conceived the armor-like thought to accept suffering, you gradually blend it with suffering, starting with small sufferings. When you do this, you steadily increase your capacity to accept suffering. So after you have this, it says armor-like thought of acceptance. So it's by analyzing over and over again that you gain this impenetrable idea and motivation that allows you to accept suffering. So it becomes like an armor that suffering can't penetrate. And if you start, it says, and you start with it small, starting with the smaller sufferings and saying, okay, I accept that, and going through it and the reasoning and so forth, and then gradually moving it into the sufferings, and then the greater and greater and greater and greater, till you get to the point where you can handle any suffering and apply these same points. So we find a quote from Shantideva's Compendium of Trainings. Once you have first grown used to small sufferings, you will become accustomed to the difficult and the very difficult. For example, just as all living beings have the idea that suffering is happiness through the power of conditioning, so you maintain the idea of joy whenever you experience suffering by becoming used to applying the idea of joy to these experiences. So just in the same way that you would imagine people think over and over again, and it makes the sufferings. It says, for example, just as all living beings have the idea of suffering, that suffering is. I'm sorry. Let me read this again. I have it all in my head. I just have to put it into the pieces so it makes sense. Once you have first grown used to small sufferings, you will become accustomed to the difficult and the very difficult. For example, just as all living beings have the idea that suffering is happiness through the power of conditioning. So sentient beings misunderstand reality. They believe that things that are suffering are actually happiness. So as a translator's note, we're talking about contaminated happiness, those things which will disintegrate and become a form of suffering. We see them as happy now, but they will change. So they really aren't true happiness, items of happiness. So it's saying that sentient beings have, through meditation, convinced themselves, we have convinced ourselves that these things that are actually suffering are forms of happiness. So in the same way that we've convinced ourselves about that, we convince ourselves that suffering is actually good. So we habituate ourselves with this opposite idea and way of thinking about suffering and our relationship with suffering. And Rinpoche compared it to, even though when we do the meditation on ugliness, we imagine that the whole world is filled with grounds of bones. And we imagine that everything is a cemetery. Everything isn't a cemetery, but we're utilizing this as a tool. So in the same way that we utilize this, imagining that all the grounds are a cemetery, we can imagine that imagine various sufferings, and then imagine ourselves having patience with it, so that we can practice enduring suffering. So we can imagine that there's a suffering and practice enduring it. So that's the point that's being made here, is that we can become used to the idea of enjoying these experiences through familiarizing ourselves with in this way, imagining an experience and then reacting to it with patience. So we meditate on that over and over again, as if we had heard something bad or had something happen, and then we imagine it from all of the different angles through analytical meditation, and then transform it. Rinpoche, the ngatsu the zindutso son the zanima dakpar konso chiwa dan lenjaku. Then nged sampa tanda yabudu. Then triya dan lenja. Then ngatsu data the sheso. Then the zanima the ngatsu gutso sheso dedayang. Okay, so we're going to end here, and what we're going to try and start doing every week is have a question and answer period near the end. It's going to be every single week. We would encourage, Rinpoche really likes questions. We want to, though, end at the 11. So just realize you might have to table your question if it goes on further. And this is going to be an active experience that we're going to have. And I'm also going to start putting questions in that are kind of basic questions that we could put on the website. Frequently asked questions type thing. So days that we don't have people who want to ask questions, I'll ask one of those questions, and then we can apply that. So we talked about this at the board meeting, and that's what we're going to do. So questions? Okay.
Are the 6 realms themselves dependently originated? Because they seem to be talked about as if they're fixed. Like throughout time, and yet like the human existence has only been, in our universe for a short period of time on the geological scale. So, how would they be fixed then?
The Rinpoche, Dao Ritu Tuma Mepa?
Ritu.
Dakpar Dao Ritu Yure, Gangisina Kongi Tsampa, the Chenripa, the Ngatsu Zambaling, the Lo Gatsi Yure, the Hakogudu. then chikshenda zambaling jenda yure, ahakogomare, then senchen yure, yene dawa ritu, dakpar, tuma mepa yurebe.
Dua redu thoma meba res, thoma meba.
Less so.
Na mango tree thoma muduas.
Less so.
Mango tree, tree, thoma, peach tree, mango tree, mudua.
Less so.
Na you are the rubber body best.
Less so. So we would say that each of those realms are beginningless. So they all have always been. So in answer to that question of the time and so forth, they're just like a mango tree is caused by a previous mango tree. A peach tree never caused a mango tree. Likewise, the 6 realms of cyclic existence have the hell realm has since beginningless time been a hell realm. Hungry ghost realm been a hungry ghost realm. What caused it that so this moment hell realm is caused by a previous moment's hell realm, caused by a previous moment's hell realm. There is no beginning to that hell realm's existence when you look at it having to be caused by a previous like substance that's concordant. So Rinpoche said the realms are beginningless in that way, that you can't find a first hell realm, a first hungry ghost realm, because it would be illogical to posit a first, because then you would have to have something that caused that first that would be a like substance that would have the potential to produce a hell experience. So Rinpoche is saying, as Buddhists, we posit that just like a mango tree is beginningless in terms of it's always been a mango lineage, likewise, a hell realm has beginningless nature in that same way. Beginningless.
Rinpoche, my question is about the order in which our karma ripens.
Okay.
Is the order in which our karma ripens informed by a disposition or a gravity towards our growth, meaning the way that we experience our karma is conducive to our growth in some way?
What do you mean by growth? Physical growth or mental growth?
Mental growth.
Spiritual growth?
Okay. Is it conducive to our spiritual growth to experience certain karmas at certain times? Or is it more that our karma simply ripens based on the conditions in a more neutral way?
Yes. So the question is are you asking is that as we spiritually progress, do we want certain, are we trying to do so in such a way so we have certain karmas ripen on us that will help us progress further?
That as well, but also that the karmas that we have already accumulated, do they ripen in the order in which would be most conducive to our growth?
Oh, I see. The lei triwa.
Yeah.
Then the dugnel dang dewa. Then kongi triwa ngatsu the nampichu nyanlan chedu. Then ngatsu lei that sansan dugnel yure sansan dewa yongdu. Then the kongi triwa de rimbo yurebe judan chen rimbo yomare. That's the kongi triwa de ngatsu nyanlan chena. Then the ngatsu tambo the migewa sasun. Then sopun yure. Then ngatsu nyanlan che. Then the sopun tambo jegadu. Then ngatsu the dewa dugnel yongdu. The rimbo yure tambo jegadu. Nipa je.
저 동마 멤버네. 저 동마 멤버는 가서 줄래. 가와다 마가와다 로마데
Lesso.
시바 송가 여도 말이야.
K Chenpo. Lesso.
송 여러.
Lesso.
송데 네 가와다 마가와다 로마데 시바도 간도 네 생게도 네바지 레도 그래서 어딜 바자로 들으스 바자. 기 레지 바자. 마기 레지 바자. 로마데 레지 바자스.
Lesso.
네바 다 네바 여바 인자 기 네바데 기 네바 기 레지 네바 여바 이나 안텔라테네 사다 말제야 타발로야 상제야 어떤 게 레버딩 거야레스 메기 레 네바 메우디 쳐와게 녀완도 거래 디게다 총은 돈을 주고 그랬어.
Then kongi chua gar shenet sansan the nupa de yongdu sansan nupa de yongdu. Tambo sa nipa sa gar rimbo yurube.
다 소소 생각을 거와다 먹어왔다 로마땡 바차요로.
Lesso.
림바다 가르스나 거가 누가 시초와요나 아니 기인들부터 맨 좋은 거랬어. 먹이 레드 또 쳐와요나 먹이 레드부터 맨 좋은 거래.
Lesso.
로마땡 시초와요나 어때 림바도 좋은 거랬어.
Then a shechoa jugare kongi chua. The shechoa gar is jugare gar shene the gewa shechoa.
다 거와사바이나 데바사바이나 조항의 조송상 데바다 거와 쇼쇼레스. 조아 뭐지 조
Jason.
다 넘어가도 샤네 제바이나 넘어가 샤제고냐 상례아비다. 아니 샤제 조동 호안 제바이나 거와 치와레스. 아니 니마도 마산은 din이지래. 지마도 마산 통원이지로.
Ale.
나는 데바도 저.
Ale.
레지 고아 지가도 녀가도 공부가.
Ale.
어때 손으로.
Ni de tunso. Then a Rinpoche ngatsu nyamlen chena the rimbo jegudu kongi chua the ngatsu nyamlen che then sani nyamlen ma chena the chikshena dugyo yongare yine tearing nyamlen chena sani dugyo yongomare the drawa yurube. Okay, the kongi chua. So there is not any specific connection. It seems like that the arisal is haphazard in a way, meaning that when the conditions arise, it arises. And Rinpoche said, so there was a lot in here. So since beginningless time, we've accumulated virtue, non-virtue, and that which has not been presented in Scripture, or those deeds which are neutral. So all of these have the ability or inability to produce. So neutral, inability, virtue, and non-virtue, ability. Then lumaten nupa gare Rinpoche. Nupa. Sho?
노마땡게 당가서 다가 계셔서 거 많이 먹어 많이 비상으로 던져요. 또 로마땡스 그러다.
Then nupa? Lumaten pakcha nupa?
로마땡 누바도 어디 시바든가 아니면 생각을 내봐 줘요다. 또 로마땡 시베 누바레스.
Okay, so, and then I was just asking what the ability of that which hasn't been presented in Scripture is technically. Like, what does it produce? And it produces those things which are neutral. You doing more things that are neutral. So that makes sense. So since beginningless time, we've created virtue, non-virtue, and neutral. So all of these imprints and these things have created predispositions within our mental continuum, or seeds. These seeds or predispositions have ability or potential to ripen. So the more powerful ones ripen quicker, but even the most powerful ones need conditions to ripen. So there has to be power, and there has to be a condition that connects with it in order for it to ripen. Now, Rinpoche said in order for it to have more power, for instance, if you engage in a deed, you have a motivation that's coupled with negativity to engage in the deed, and then you engage in the deed, and then you rejoice in having engaged the deed. That's a more powerful deed than if those factors aren't there. If you didn't have the motivation, you just did it and then were sad about it. So it says that any of those factors missing lessen that deed's potential or power. But it still has power, it just isn't as able if it doesn't have all of the factors of completion to the deed. So it's not haphazard in that there is no rhyme or reason. There is rhyme or reason, but it is extremely subtle rhyme and reason. And I asked him, in connection to spiritual practice, for instance, I said, is there any connectivity that if today I practice, if tomorrow I was going to have suffering, but today I practice, is there a chance that tomorrow I won't have suffering because I practiced today? Is there that kind of connectivity? And he said, no, there's nothing that direct. There isn't. We're talking about 1,000,000 lifetimes ago you might have done something, now it's reached its point of power, and then it's going to ripen because like I said before, you had a Coca-Cola and it reminds you of a smell that connected to that time. So we're not, the connectivity is there, but it's distant connectivity. It could happen right away, but it's not fixed like that. So there is nothing fixed within the karma saying that this will ripen first, except that there are standards that show what makes it more powerful. And then there are also other factors. Which one was closer? What behavior have you been closer to? What was the last thing that you did? So there's so many things. Most of what I'm saying relates to the time of death. And how it projects and throws you. But it also it relates to daily life as well. And it really is just a series of things happening. And that's why it's said that we don't have independence. We don't have freedom because we're not in control. We are out of control until we get rid of all those things that make us out of control. Decent. So virtue gets rid of non-virtue, and non-virtue gets rid of virtue. So if we go for virtue, we lessen our non-virtue. So it's very important for us to practice, though, the mind that aspires to enlightenment, practice great compassion, and practice the wisdom realizing emptiness. Wisdom realizing emptiness is very important because it gets rid of ignorance. And when we get rid of ignorance, we get rid of the afflictions that the ignorance gives rise to. And then we get rid of, as a result of that, the actions that those afflictions push us into. So therefore, we don't create those things which will cause us to suffer if our ignorance isn't there. So just like if we realize that a rope is a rope and it's not a snake, everything that happens when we thought it was a snake goes away. True, Kontriwa.
I thought I understood once Rinpoche to speak to the, to say something about an acute illness being a purification. And I just wondered if he could elaborate on that.
The Lama Chiran Sumpare, the Dugnya Chenmo Yuna, the Natsa Chenmo Yuna, the Dipada Chikshena. Lama Chiran this Sumpare. The Detsu the Laronang, Moa Laronang, Garishene, the Jutsen Gare.
That Dungan Chamber, the Diba Gandes Dagresana, Dungan the Dibin Debures. Dungan Kazi Choa, Diba Choa Tanure, Dungan Dina, Diban Din Tanure, Dungan Chung in Diba Chung Tanuro, Dungan Diba Lishunro.
What is meant by that is that suffering itself is a result of non-virtue. Illness is suffering, so it would be a result of non-virtue. When we suffer, it means that we've gotten rid of a cause of some sort. We've gotten rid of a misdeed within our continuum. Because the suffering has occurred, there's a misdeed that's been that produced that now kind of loses its sputters out because it produced that. And when we look at non-virtue, for instance, a small non-virtue will cause a small suffering. A medium non-virtue will cause a medium suffering, and a great non-virtue will cause a great suffering. So this means that when someone has a very severe illness, that means that a great non-virtue has been dealt with. And as a translator's note, a great non-virtue for us would be at the highest point an illness like that. So we're extinguishing a great non-virtue, but if we had to deal with a great non-virtue somewhere else like a hell realm, it would be eons of torture because that's what a great non-virtue gives rise to there. So it's getting rid of one of those things that could produce an immense amount more suffering in another place. Digson. We might have time for one more question. So that's how it, in a way, is a purification.
I think that or believe that the first doctrine that Buddha gave was suffering, and then I'm looking at the state of Buddha nature. So when you're in Buddha nature, I think there's no suffering in Buddha nature. And if there's no suffering in Buddha nature, then that in that state of suffering, if you have a happiness, that still is suffering if you're not in the Buddha nature.
Okay, let me just clarify. I just want to make sure I ask the question right. When you say Buddha nature refers to the potential that we all have to become a Buddha. Yes. It means that we all can become a Buddha because we have the ingredients within us that can turn into a Buddha.
That's one thing. And then the Buddha had Buddha nature. So that part.
Well, the Buddha had Buddha nature because he also had the same ingredients that we have that allowed for him to become a Buddha. So I want to ask the question right. So Buddha nature refers to the potential. Buddha had Buddha nature because he was a sentient being with a mental consciousness, just like we are sentient beings with mental consciousness. We have Buddha nature. The Buddha has Buddha nature. Now, do you mean the Buddha's nature?
Yeah.
Like the actual,
so the actual nature,
state of mind of the Buddha?
Yes.
Okay, so the actual state of mind of the Buddha. Okay, so that's what you mean by Buddha nature.
So is there suffering in that?
Okay, so is there any suffering in the Buddha's mind? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
The Rinpoche, the Sanje Gitu Nangla Dugnel Yurube?
So there
is no suffering in the Buddha's mental continuum because all of the imprints that could create any type of suffering are all gone. So not only are the main course afflictive obstructions gone, the imprints are gone as well. So there's nothing in the Buddha's ingredients to create any kind of suffering thought. So the Buddha's mind state, there is no suffering thought. That is potential. There's no potential for suffering in the Buddha's mind state.
And within that, there's no reincarnation.
Not forced.
Yeah.
They can take on a birth if they'd like, but there's no forced reincarnation.
And then on the other side, the suffering is the other aspect that we are all suffering.
Right.
Whether we're happy or not, we're still suffering.
Correct.
Within that.
Correct. The first teaching, the Buddha stated that this is the superior truth of suffering, and stated that most conditioned existence that we think is happiness is suffering. So that's correct. Because it's our misunderstanding of everything around us, our ignorance that causes us to think that things that are happy, I think that things that are actually suffering are forms of happiness. So that's correct. Okay, so concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I'm sure you can find the other name of the Buddha nature somewhere in a book if you want to. One is the natural abiding. The other one's, I think, like has to do with lineage, like the mental consciousness itself. But we can find the name out. It's Janjur. I just can't remember the English. So, concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. Whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wanda, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Geshe Rinpoche Gusi Shapi Denonang, Sheda Selbudu, Ngatsu Lamrim Chenmo Kanga Jeru. Thank you, everyone.